Hi, this is Miss Fergus, and this is a quick video to introduce you to how we will be using your Apex Math textbook in these classes. So if I am your math teacher, this is the expectation of how you will access and how you will use and how you will work within your Apex Math class to increase your learning in this math class. So to get started, you will always access your math textbook through our math class. So in our math class, there is an Apex module right here. And the very last link says click here. This is how you will enter your math textbook anytime you want to use it. So you click there, you will automatically be logged in to your dashboard. If you are prompted for a username or password, or you receive an error there, please take a screenshot of what you see and send it to me, and I'll help you troubleshoot. Once you're on your Apex dashboard, you're going to see any textbooks that teachers have assigned to you. So we also use Apex at Internet Academy in different content areas. So you might have additional textbooks, not just math. So we are going to use this Algebra 2 course as an example of how to work within Apex. Just like a hard copy of a math textbook, your online math textbook is broken down into units or different chapters. Let's go and look into Unit 1. Within each unit, you will see a unit overview. You will see a pretest if you are in Algebra 1 or Algebra 2, optional pretest. If you are in pre-calculus or calculus, you do not have pretests. The purpose of a pretest is to communicate to the math textbook that you don't need to study that material. So if you show through the pretest that you fully understand a concept or two, the math textbook will allow you to skip over those lessons. That doesn't mean that you won't be assessed on that understanding later in the math course or even later in the unit. So you definitely don't want to use these pretests and use notes and research the answers as you go to try and get excused from content, because that's going to come back to bite you in the tushy later on when you actually need to access that information quickly and use it. So pretest is yes, it's on your honor, but if you try to cheat your way through it, you're going to face some consequences later on. Moms might call that natural consequences. All right, so let's look at lessons, the structure of a lesson. Every lesson is broken down into 3 parts. You've got a study, you've got a checkup, and you've got a quiz. Sometimes you'll have more than one quiz if it's a lesson that has covered 2 or 3 larger ideas. The quizzes are broken down per main idea. So your study is where you will actually be introduced to the material, and there will be interactive activities. Let me move this down here. So notice there are 22 pages to this study. Every single study has a study guide to print out and use to take notes on as you go through the lesson. You can print these out to a physical printer and then keep them all 3 hole punch and put them all in a binder organized by lesson, by unit. Or you could upload this to a digital note-taking application. If you'd like some ideas of suggestions I have, please let me know. And you can handwrite your notes on these, save them digitally, or even print them out from there. If neither of those options work for you in your learning environment, you can always handwrite just on plain notebook paper, just handwrite the answers. The whole point of these is not to submit them to me for credit. This is simply for you to help process the information, to take notes on it, because also writing is another way for it to help your brain process and be tucked away into your long-term memory. but also to give yourself some notes that you can use and you can fall back on anytime you need it. The most interesting thing, probably the biggest difference between online in this math class and other math classes that you may have had in the past, is that all of your assessments in this class are open note. So even more reason for you to take good notes, because then in the middle of an assessment, you can go back and use those notes. So usually your study guides will be about a page or two, but they're good scaffolded notes, overall general notes on the lesson. Then you'll go through the entire lesson, you'll take your notes, and the expectation is that you actually interact with all of the learning activities within the lesson. This is where you're going to learn the content. If you have any questions at any time, you don't understand where a number came from or a definition, you take a screenshot, send it to me. Tell me what you're working on and exactly what you're not understanding. And that's why I am here. So when you're done with the study, you're going to move on to your checkup. Checkup is practice problems, and it's also a worksheet. Same thing, print this off to a printer, so you have a hard copy, upload it into a digital notes taking device, or you can handwrite. All of the answer keys to both the study guide and the checkups are available for you so you can verify your understanding. Again, the point is not to cheat. The point is for you to get feedback whether or not you are ready for the next part of the lesson, which is the quiz. Don't take the quiz until you have feedback, personal feedback, that you understand the material. And so here's the quiz. The quizzes, you have 3 attempts to pass. And in order to pass, you need a 70% or higher. So a 70% is the minimum where the textbook says, you know what, you are prepared to access, to add on to your understanding, and you will be able to be successful in the next lesson. So go ahead and move forward. However, if you score under 70% and you do that 3 times, you will be locked out. Apex will actually lock you out. And when that happens, you will need to contact me. And you will need to tell me that you are locked out of a quiz. And in order to get reset, I am going to ask to see your completed study guide. And I'm going to ask to see your completed checkup worksheet. Because as a math teacher, as your teacher who is concerned about you making sure that you are studying enough to learn, you're going through all those healthy ways, the things needed to help you learn, I'm going to require to see those before I reset. And in our conversation that we have, that's where you can say, I didn't really understand how to do number 3. Could you please support me with that? And I will say, absolutely. The smarter way to approach a lesson is to not take a quiz until you are sure that you are ready and that you can pass the quiz in under 10 minutes. That means you're looking at it and you have a pretty good proficiency and beat through the quiz. That means you have a good understanding of the content. When students get locked out, the first thing I do is I go and I check and see how much time they've spent working on the quizzes. Typically, students that get locked out are spending 1 minute, 2 minutes on the entire quiz, and they're getting really low scores. And my takeaway from that is that the student didn't study the material, and they're just quickly trying to pass through the lesson. So the whole point of having the stopgap where you're going to get locked out if you don't pass is because the point is you actually need to know the material in order to move on and then be successful in the class. So I help you with that by requiring to see your completed study guide worksheet and your completed checkup worksheet in order for you to move on or excuse me, do a retake if you are locked out. So notice within this first unit, we have 5 lessons. And then at the end of every unit in Apex, you have a unit test called a CST. This TST will be hidden, so ignore that. A CST. This CST score actually goes in your grade book. This is your summative assessment where you get to show your stuff. Your Apex quizzes don't go in the grade book. That's just feedback for you. That's practice. That's to give you feedback. Your CST is giving me feedback on your understanding. And again, you don't take the CST until you are confident that you are ready. And how do you get feedback, whether or not to help you know if you're confident enough that you're ready? You have done all the worksheets, you've checked your answers, you've passed all of the quizzes. If you missed any problems on the quizzes, you've figured out why you missed those problems. So you've sent those questions to me if you're not able to find your boo-boos. And then also at the end of every unit, you have a review and you have a worksheet, a big, nice review worksheet that goes over all the concepts in the unit, a nice healthy review, which is another great opportunity for you to practice and then check with an answer key to get personal feedback whether or not you are ready to take your CST, your computer scored test. Okay, so a couple more things in Apex. Let's see, where do you find your answer keys for the study guide, for the checkup, and the unit reviews? Well, unfortunately, they are not in Apex. So what I have done is gone in and saved all of those files for you, and they are within your math class under files. Apex Study Guide answer keys. Here they are. And these things are great because not only are they the answers, they actually provide step-by-step how to solve the problems, which is great from a student perspective because you get feedback exactly what part of the problem you made a boo-boo. This is not a good example because there's no equations. Let's find one that has equations to show you. I think that 1.2.2 is equations. There they are. All right, so how helpful is this as a learner? You spot check your answers first. If your answer is different from the answer key, then go and you look at every single line. At what point did my steps become different from the answer key? And how did the answer key get that? Where did those numbers come from? And if you're unable to figure out how to do it correctly, then again, you contact me. Send me a screenshot of exactly what you're looking at and where you're confused. Sometimes it's helpful if students send me their work and then also a screenshot of this right here. So again, we don't have to go back and forth. We can just have a good conversation from the beginning. So that is how we are going to use your textbook in this class. Let's go and look at one more thing here before we begin, before you get going. So again, you're going to click here to enter your textbook every single time. Right now, you probably haven't finished all of these sections within your Apex module, so this is probably grayed out right now and you can't click it. As soon as you finish all the items above, you'll be able to access Apex.